Thank you, Michael, and thank you, everybody, for coming. So we can click here. I just wanted to open this with a little background. I started at University of Adelaide in 2013. And how many people here are familiar with University of Adelaide or have spent any time there? A couple of folks. Look, it's the third oldest institution in the country, and the other two older institutions, I think, are in bigger cities, and this one maybe feels older still. It is a very traditional institution, not exactly what I'd call an agile institution, not hungry for change in any way. But in 2012, a new VC came into University of Adelaide, and it was a gentleman, Warren Bebbington, who had been at University of Melbourne. And I think he was struck when he got there with the drop-off in the level of technology that was available, especially the level of systems automation. And he made a decision to invest $75 million in technology, $15 million a year over 5 years, and decided to hire a CIO. And I had been working in the States at the time, and had been a CIO for some time, found the job, and applied to and ended up in the role. But when I got there, it was really clear that the environment really wasn't hungry for technology. The VC was hungry for technology, right? The environment was pretty happy doing things the way they had been doing them. But the executive layer was really keen to see a great deal of change. There was, at the time, a number of departments at sort of a low level of maturity, not using any technology, very manual process, a lot of paper. And there was an IT group that had been getting better and better, had centralized and was making a lot of improvements, but it didn't still have the best name in the organization, and in a lot of ways was still quite traditional itself. It had a very traditional project management office. It did waterfall projects and Prince 2 style projects. Very well documented environment. They would write a feasibility study followed by a business case, followed by a few more technical papers, and they'd have enterprise review. And it'd take them about 18 months before they actually did anything. So when I got there was a lot of stuff on the shelf. I could grab a report on any number of projects that we could do should we actually start to do a project. And there's a great deal of writing going on. It was clear that the pace that the VC wanted and the pace that the organization wanted were really quite different, and we needed to do something differently. And hence Agile. And I'd used Agile in a couple contexts before, but this was an environment with a lot of resource and a lot of drive to make change very quickly and do a lot of automation, but it really needed some new methodologies. And so when I talk about Agile, and when Kerrie talks about Agile, we're really talking about Agile, the programming methodology, the development methodology. Not agility writ large, but really how to build software tools. So from an executive perspective, as I started to promote the idea that we should do Agile at the university, people were a little freaked out by it. They were initially sort of thinking like, well, you want to take our people and get them involved in the IT process, and you want to move your people into our people's offices, and and there was a little sort of tension around it, but at the same time, the promise was that it would break through some of the slowness and some of the barriers. And the leadership really, especially at the executive level, really wanted this high-speed delivery, and they wanted the money that they were investing to show results very quickly. And the feeling was that the project thinking was too slow and the projects cost too much. And in fact, there were some stories at the time. We would go to see somebody, the IT group would go to see somebody, and they'd say, well, we want these changes in the website, and the IT group would say, well, it's $400,000. And they'd say, well, we have a quote for $35,000 to do the same thing. And the IT group, yeah, but we've got to write a paper, we've got to do a security review, feasibility study, we've got to do, it's like, and because it was just our methodology, it was a little bit heavy, and we hadn't figured out a way to lighten it up. So I did what any clever CIO does when they have to make a lot of change that involves a lot of work. I hired somebody to do it. And I hired Kerrie Campbell as deputy CIO. Kerrie came from the development environment. She had worked with a variety of methodologies in the private sector and in the public sector. And I needed somebody else that really came from a development background to come in and look at the way things were being done there and see if we couldn't come up with a faster way to do it. And it was a big challenge, and Kerrie, I think, is going to walk us through what happened at Adelaide. Thanks much.
So I'll just take a little bit, you've heard a bit about my career, but my journey into Agile started when I used the taxpayer dollars to go to a course. because I work for the federal government. I work for Centrelink, so if anyone knows Centrelink, you can see I use the funds well. And I went to this Agile course. We looked at Agile. No one knew how to do it. Everyone knew how to say it, but no one was actually doing it because no one knew what it really, really was. It was a bit like the DevOps of today. This guy got up and we were talking about IT projects that had failed in the government. And he got up, he'd done his PhD on IT projects that had failed. Now, this slide was put up, and this was my watershed moment. I sat in a room of about 100 people, and I saw that my job failed to deliver 90% of the time. And I was horrified. I looked around the room, and not one person had even blinked an eye. So for me, this was my watershed moment. I'm working in Waterfall, and 90% of the time we fail to deliver. We fail to deliver value, we fail to deliver on budget, we fail to deliver on time. Now, if you've worked in IT for a long time, I've been in there for 35 years, we used to complain about the users not knowing what they wanted. We used to argue about specs and say, should it be shall or should? And then we'd deliver something. You know, you're laughing because you all know you've done it. So we would do this and we'd get the project going. We'd find out that the systems couldn't do half of what we wanted it to do. So we did a third of what we needed to do. The timeframes would push out. We'd deliver it to business with half of what they needed. We used to say in the Department of Human Services, we don't give business what they want, we give them what they need. That's a very arrogant way to look at it. We would give it to them 2.5 years later, because as Mark said, we had so many feasibility studies, business cases to write, and the business would get it and say, what the hell is this? They didn't know what that was. They'd already made workarounds because it took us so long to deliver it, and we lost a lot of trust. So I didn't want to work in a sector that I didn't deliver. No one trusted me, and everyone thought we were a heavyweight millstone around their neck. So what I did was I looked into Agile, and I looked at all the methodologies. There's 1 billion and one of them there. Confused me, and I thought, how do I start out? So what I did was we just started. I got a job at the university, and Mark had a wicked problem. He wanted to save some money. We had an opportunity to create a project that saved a lot of money, but we had a really short time frame. So I had 5 weeks to transition some infrastructure. Now, people will tell you can't do an Agile project with infrastructure. It's a lie. You can do every project with Agile. So we had 5 weeks to do this. I brought in a coach. We looked at doing sprints. We brought things in very slowly. Sprints, stand-ups, Kanban board. That's it. No burn-down charts, no marbles, no playing cards. We just did things very simply. The staff came to me and they said, we can't do this in 5 weeks. There's no way we can do this. I asked them to go away, map out how they couldn't do it, and come back to me. So they came back, they found out that, no, this is actually quite possible. I gave them the support of an Agile coach. We went through it, we delivered it in 4 weeks. We fixed 20 bugs that had been in production for 2 years, and we saved all the money. So that was the first victory. We had a small victory. Agile had excited them. Now, I did Agile in the government, so my head has scars from it, but we actually did this project that was similar to that. We had to deliver a project in 10 weeks, and it was for when we had Black Thursday fires in Victoria. We needed to create a system that was an emergency response system. What happened was we got teams together, we got business together, got testers together, we got IT together, and we built this program. It's one of the best that we'd ever built. We'd won awards, the team was engaged, the team felt great. But when we finished it, we all went back to our normal day jobs. Now, we had a sense of freedom, of connectedness and achievement. And the organisation said, great, now back to your job, which was not delivering 90% of the time. So everyone who was involved in that project was disengaged. We left the organisation and we found other organisations where we could perpetuate the Agile stream that we had worked in and we had felt so good in. So the benefit of Agile is it's a collaborative event. The reason it was successful in the University of Adelaide, and I'll go through further, was that we involved the business straight away, right? Agile isn't the domain of IT. It can't be. We can't work alone. Agile is a very natural way for us to work, but for business, not so natural. But we need to work together. So what we did was we trained in Lean, we trained in Six Sigma, and they trained in Agile together. We almost opened up our kimono to show our faults, and we showed them together, and so we grew together. When I had the second Agile project in the university, it was tainted with a bit of history because the previous delivery, a system called Casper, which has a really bad connotation in the University of Adelaide, was poorly delivered, over time, over budget, didn't deliver what it needed to. In fact, the business tried to make it do everything that it could, but also mow the lawn, make the coffee, and do everything else, and never said no to their end users. So we had 8 weeks, 10 weeks to deliver this project, and we're only going to do phase 1. And I remember sitting in a room with IT and business, and I said, yep, we can do this in an agile way. We need to be co-located. We need to have all the resources. We need to do stand-up. Let's do Kanban boards so we get visibility. And I'll bring coach in again, bring the coach in to help you through it. I said, we'll get it done in these 8 weeks. And they said, well, we'll start employing the 15 people that we need to service this hump that we have because of this product. I said, don't do that, it'll be done. Now, IT and business looked at me in the room and said, you're an idiot. But we did it in 6 weeks. We delivered 3 phases. And that project is one of the most successful projects that HR have ever done. Right? So they had a reputation of delivering poor systems, not communicating properly, being quite poor. So we helped their reputation, and we proved that we could deliver in Agile. So this is another proving, another win. So the business started to sit up and take notice. They realised that something was happening here that was positive, against all the negative stuff that used to happen. When I came to the university, I would have said that they did waterfall meander. It wasn't quite waterfall, it was a, we'll get to it. When I first started, we delivered 17 projects a year. We now deliver 47 a year. So the success rates for Agile versus Waterfall, I'll just give you these. I don't really get into metrics for this because it's the way that you feel. How do you measure the success of a project? With customer-centric projects, which we have now, we're delivering their value, not our value, we're delivering their value. So we might meet their value earlier. You've all seen that cartoon with what a software developer wants to deliver, what a customer actually gets. Sometimes they only need the log swing. They don't need the couch, but we like to deliver the couch. So this has been a big revelation in the university is sometimes we get to a point where we go, that's all we need. So what else do you need? What more value can we attribute? So the project can actually take different tacks. So it was time for a change in the university, and I wanted people to see it as an opportunity, not a threat. We're not going to lose our jobs. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing bad's going to happen. But we talked about creating a safe space for mistakes. Okay, the most important thing in Agile is you've got to be able to fail fast, and learn from your mistakes. For me, a mistake is something that you repeated twice because you didn't learn from it the first time. And that's what I said to my staff. You know, if you didn't learn from the first time, that's a mistake. We created safe spaces where there was no finger pointing. It was an empowerment model, not a command and control model. And a lot of the staff who were very command and control couldn't survive in the organisation. They either self-selected to leave or they changed jobs within the university. I mean, that's very important because you can't operate in a command and control model in Agile. You have to allow people to have the freedom of thought, the diversity in thought, and that positive conflict. So, the people. Sometimes it was like this. Because waterfall's an old, comfy shoe. I've been in the IT industry for 35 years, and that shoe fits, but it doesn't do anything. 90% of the time, failed. When you try something new, if you buy a new pair of shoes, they pinch, they hurt, you've got to wear them in, and that's what happened to our people. They didn't like it. They liked the old way of working. Every single project that I worked on, I would get them in a room and say, okay guys, we're going to do Agile, I'll give you a coach support. We've got the business in the room as well, and I'll say, but sprint 3, you will come to me and you will say, we don't want to do this anymore. I said, I guarantee you'll come to me. They went, no, we won't, no, we won't. I said, you will, and I will say, keep going. Every project, to the letter, sprint 3 would come and say, this is terrible. We can't work in this way. We need to work in parallel. And I would just say, remember what I said? Keep going. After that, probably about sprint 6, they felt comfortable. This is the best way we've ever worked. This is fantastic. We're listening to the customer. Things are getting done. Right? So they've got to push through that point because we've had waterfall forever. It's something that we've grown up with in the IT industry, but it's hard to change. And it's all about the culture. You have to create a culture of continuous improvement, continuous reflection, and actually working in cooperation with those in the organisation. And that's a big change for IT people. We like to sit in the tower, bang out the best blue button ever, and send it out there. When I worked for the government, I used to send my staff to the front line in Centrelink when they did the deployment. I was the most hated person in Centrelink, but what happened was when they went to the front line and they saw someone using their product, and the person opposite them was a drug addict, high, agitated, when they're sitting there watching their API pick the best pieces of information and make it pretty, but that person was looking at a spinning donut, it made them think about the way that they developed. So it's really important that we get the end user, customer perspective, because that's who we're working for. We're not working for the business team, we're working for the end users. Extremists. This looks like it's confronting, but methodologies have extremists. I'm waterfall, I'm agile, and it must be done this way. I don't subscribe to extremists of any sort. For us, I think the success of our implementation has been that we've picked different parts of different methodologies and implemented it per a project. So we would look at the project, we would look at the maturity level of the business, we would look at the end user, the maturity level of the end user, and decide what parts to use. Now, if you're a plumber, you don't go to every job with a jackhammer. It'd be stupid. You go and look at it and say, it needs a washer. Let's change it. That's how I see the methodologies. We need to bring a toolkit with us and use bits and pieces. No one says you can't use Lean, Six Sigma, Agile, all together and mix it all up. You use it how it's appropriate for your organisation. So I would keep away from extremists, and people would say, I love it when people say, you're not doing Agile the way it should be. Excellent, because it's working. So it aligns with your organisation. If you have people coming in telling you that you're not doing it the right way, get rid of them, okay? Because you're doing it the right way for your organisation. Now, as I said, we use bits and pieces. What I wanted to do first was get visualisation of our work. If you think about IT, it's a virtual production line. I remember when I said I'm bringing in Kanban boards, I had one leader that said, we're not effing manufacturing. So that's okay, you don't have to do it. And I changed everyone around him. And suddenly his team's going, why can't we do what they're doing? That looks like fun. They're talking to their customer. This team spent 3 years arguing about a 200 item list with business. 3 years. When I started in Agile, I asked them to attribute business value to those items. We had 2 that had 4 points. The rest was 0. So I took it to the board and I said, okay, so we're doing all of this work. Here's the business value. Which one would you like me to work on first? They said, why are we doing all that? Exactly. So I've just busted 3 years worth of work with one piece of paper. That team now moved to removing a LMS that we'd had for 14 years and delivering Canvas in a very agile way, first in Australia. As Mark said, we're a very conservative university. We would never have done that without Agile. In fact, we ripped the heart and lungs out of the university. We changed our lecture capture and we changed our LMS at the same time. So, you know, that's such a big divergence from where we were. So, unbeknownst to me, I have only recently discovered the heart of Agile. So Alistair Coburn wrote the Agile Manifesto. I've actually had him at Adelaide University looking at what we did. So intrinsically, we did this. What Mark said to me was, we're not delivering, and we've got really bad relationships with our stakeholders. So we simplified what we did in Agile, not bringing in playing poker, not bringing in burn up charts, burn down charts, burn sideways charts. We brought the simple things in first and made them work. Now, some teams are using many different methodologies and many different ways of working, but that's because it resonates with the team and with the business. So we now have 2-page business cases. So double-sided A3. So this is one page, this is the second page. I can guarantee that I have read every business case that we've ever done, because it's not 400 pages. I'll give you the hot tip, I never read any of them. I read the executive summary and I missed out on a lot. But these are our processes that we're breaking now. We want to be more agile, and these business cases cover everything. I've spoken to some of our stakeholders, and they said this is the best thing that's ever happened because we understand what's going on. We had a typical IT structure. It was very much based on teams, PeopleSoft teams, database teams, and we're finding that as we're doing Agile, it wasn't scaling very well. We were waiting for the PMO to allow us to do more project work, and we're finding that was a limiting factor, so that was our bottleneck. We changed our structure. We aligned it to the business roles within the university. So I was the head of the applications delivery team. I had 5 stakeholders. I had all of these stakeholders. I was firefighting at best. Now we have a one-to-one relationship with the business. We have cross-skilled, cross-functional teams that can speed up, spin up, and work on that business unit. We work now on those business units' roadmaps. What other IT division can say that? We usually work to our own roadmap, but now we work to the business roadmaps. And as you can see, there's no PMO. We didn't need the need for a PMO, but we used the governance structure. There was a reporting structure across. We also use communities of practice or communities of excellence to keep the best practices going across those streams. How truly agile are we? We're not pure agile, or we're not pure waterfall. I would say we do most of our work in a hybrid stream. And that goes back to the resonance of the heart of Agile by, delivering what the customer needs. So if you're using some Lean, Six Sigma, Agile, maybe some governance that's waterfall-ish, then that's okay. We now have gone to a customer-centric model. So this is one of our research personas. We have 8 amazing personas in the student stream, and we're building that. So we're working directly with the customer to get their design in their products. We also do a lot of value mapping. So you see down the bottom there where there's this heat map with how people are feeling as they're going through our systems and our processes. There's a lot of red in there that we're working on. We're trying to look for green. And so it's really, we're really going down to how people feel about using IT, working with IT, and working with the structures that we have within the organisation. This has been really enlightening for us because we did one in the student stream, and IT people always want to automate everything. See a line, bad, automate that process. But we found that students didn't want that because they had travelled from other places, they're coming to a strange environment, don't know people, and this is where they were making friends, in lines. Who would have thought? We wanted to take that away. So that would have been taking a social construct away from those students. So working in this agile way has enlightened us to a lot of other processes that IT people would never have thought about. One of the things that really annoys me is when people say agile means no planning. And I want to do that because it's more thoughtful planning. It's thinking about how you're going to approach this. It's also more thoughtful ways about documenting. Maybe wiki is dead. Maybe it's dead. You know, where I'm toying with the idea of having someone stand up in front of a whiteboard and we video them for 5 minutes and they outline the structures, outline the detail of the project. Because IT people love talking on the whiteboard. And containing those video clips of 5 minutes somewhere. And something else that I'm really keen that people understand is this is the biggest danger. Wagile, we call it. And it is a very dangerous position because we're trying to put that comfy shoe back on that doesn't deliver. So if you want to do Agile, dive into it, start doing it, and learn as you go, because that's what it's about. It's about that continuous learning. It's about that making mistakes. These will be your own mistakes. You can't get them from another institution. These will be your own mistakes. So.
Well, thank you, Kerrie and Mark. It's a fascinating journey. I think one that I think I heard resonance all around the room that we're all connecting with. And luckily, we've got a few minutes left for questions, which I'm sure there will be. Over here.
Yep, awesome. Yep. So we have BAs, Scrum Masters, PMs, Dev, both Ops and Project, which creates this little mini DevOps in the team. And you can be sure that if the guys in your team are coding in a project and they're going to go support it, you get better quality. So, you know, they're looking after that product. We have testers in the stream, integrators in the stream. So it's fully set up to actually self-contain and operate to that business. So yeah, we get a little mini DevOps, and also the people in those streams understand the product better. So they get a deeper knowledge of the product, and so they get a deeper knowledge of the services that they're providing, say, to research or to learning and teaching.
Other questions? This one at the back there? Yep.
Yep. Don't split the teams. Yep. Yep. So you get that consistency in service, you get that depth of knowledge. As I said, you're creating those cross-skilled, cross-functional teams. If there's areas where we have a burst of work and we need to move people across, it's not solid. I wish I could draw that in connecting circles or something, because it's not a solid silo. We can actually burst people based on their skill set into the different teams, or hire for short terms in those teams.
One key idea too is if you're in the research vertical, the pace of the work that gets done for research is based on that team size. We can burst it a little bit, but in some cases, when you're thinking very project-centrically, you're thinking about a project, we need 15 people for that project, we need 4 people for this project, and so on. We're saying we have 28 people doing research work in an agile way. They know the roadmap completely, and they will do IT continuously delivering IT services for research as rapidly as they can, with as little overhead as they can. But the pace of project delivery is based on that vertical capacity. And if we see it falling off where we want it, we augment it a little bit, and so it gets a little bit bigger, but then it stays that way. So the people are continuously, there's no project stop. They're working, they're effectively burning down a roadmap.
Yep.
And so they go from project to project to project, always in research. And they end up knowing research. They write the roadmap for
Business.
the business because they get so close to the business. It's almost like, you know, when everybody had decentralized IT and they loved it and they got really mad when we decentralized it, right? We're kind of decentralizing again, but by thematic areas. So we're saying research is a team and they stay with research. Teaching and learning is a team and they stay with teaching and learning.
And it's really important that you know, they do stay in those thematic groups, and we're also co-located. So we move buildings to co-locate with our customer. And that's been really important because we're sitting next to them, we're hearing their problems, they're hearing our problems. No longer is there the fight, you know, oh God, why is this so late? Or what happened with this? And why can't you just run one line of code now to fix it? You know, they understand the complexity of our environment, but more importantly, we understand the complexity of their environment. Who thought business was complex? As an IT person, none of us. But there's a complexity in there that we didn't understand until we co-located.
Time for one more question here.
Yep.
Was that just from the IT side or the business side saying that, get out?
Primarily from the IT side, because they had this frustration. So in the stand-ups, what we would do is You know, what are you doing today? What are you doing tomorrow? And if you know a lot about IT, we don't like to estimate, right? And we're always really crap at estimating. And we'll say, yeah, it'll take 4 days, and then it'll take 12. And we didn't know. And so, as I said, it's a virtual production line. So if you're taking 12 days instead of 4, then you've got wastage when you've got the tester or the business waiting to do work. So a lot of the IT people were like, yeah, I said I'd do it in 2, don't hassle me, you know, it's coming. But what would happen is those people who couldn't estimate, we would take them off the project because that was an immediate risk to the project, put someone else in, but put them on another project that was the same. So they couldn't escape from estimating, they just had to get better. And it wasn't a finger-pointing culture, it was this program is in trouble, let's pull someone out, put him in, right, we're still going. And business saw that, they saw that immediate response. Now what would have happened in a waterfall way is we would have got 3 months out or 2 months out of delivery and went, ooh, shit, we can't deliver this. Better tell business. And there were the problems. So for me, it was IT saying, no, we used to work in parallel, we could do 10 things at once. But you can in Agile still, but you're maintaining those in a sprint. And you're maintaining those on business value rather than IT value. So as a stakeholder, the deputy CIO or the CIO, we've got a stakeholder in to not create tech debt. So that's how IT work gets on our board, because they know I don't want to manage tech debt. So I'm a stakeholder, and that's the vision that they take to those boards. So yeah, but once IT get over it and start estimating better and collaborating, then it becomes better.
Well, again, join me in thanking Kerrie and Mark for the fascinating talk.
Thank you.